Sempre me perguntam qual é o futuro do dinheiro. O dinheiro hoje representa 40% dos gastos das famílias. É um volume muito expressivo aqui no Brasil. Existem alguns países do mundo, por exemplo, os países nórdicos, onde o dinheiro tem prazo de extinção. Tem países onde eles já definiram que até 2030 não terá mais circulação de dinheiro, somente os meios digitais. Aqui no Brasil, esses 40% são representativos e a nossa expectativa, nós como GetNet, nós acreditamos que o Pix terá um papel muito importante em reduzir esse valor de dinheiro em circulação. Nós não temos dúvidas que o Pix pode ajudar a reduzir os custos. Nós sabemos todos que nós temos custos de transporte de moedas, custos de reposição de moedas, assaltos, violências, uma série de custos, né, que nós chamamos aí de parte do custo Brasil, e o Pix tem aí um objetivo. Então, nós, GetNet, acreditamos que aqui tem uma oportunidade de melhorar a eficiência no Brasil. Nós estamos vivendo no país um momento muito especial. Tem uma série de projetos definidos pelo regulador entrando, como o Pix, como a Lei de Proteção de Dados, como a Circular de Recebíveis, que regulamenta toda a parte de recebíveis digitais no país, o Open Bank. Eu não tenho a menor dúvida que este evento com o Exame pode ser um grande alavancador de um debate profundo e vai ajudar a esclarecer uma série de dúvidas para todas as pessoas e fortalecer alguns conceitos também sobre todos esses sistemas regulatórios que estão no mercado.
Se você entrasse numa máquina do tempo e voltasse 20 anos no passado e contasse a si próprio que no futuro você poderia trabalhar basicamente de onde quisesse, em qualquer lugar do mundo. Você poderia tocar times, projetos, muitas vezes empresas inteiras, sem nunca ir ao escritório. Que você concluiu que não precisaria mais ter carro, já que era mais barato e cômodo contratar carros com motoristas que chegariam minutos depois de você apertar um botão. Ou você poderia fazer uma videoconferência em tempo real, andando na rua com pessoas que estão do outro lado do mundo. E que, por exemplo, nas suas férias, você, que pagaria a conta do almoço com seu relógio e faria as melhores compras sem entrar em uma loja sequer, se hospedaria de forma mais confortável que num hotel, na casa de alguém que você nunca ouviu falar. Bem, você provavelmente acharia que você ficou louco no futuro, ou então que você tivesse, na verdade, 20 mil anos à frente e não apenas 20. O que acontece é que, diante de grandes disrupções tecnológicas, o avanço nos chega cada vez mais rápido, inventando um mundo cada vez mais futurista. Eu sou Marcelo Sampaio, cofundador e CEO da Hashdex, a maior gestora de criptoinvestimentos e ativos blockchain do Brasil. E justamente por trabalharmos com investimentos em tecnologia, muita gente nos pergunta sobre o futuro do dinheiro. Aqui na Hashdex, acreditamos que se nos últimos 20, 30 anos a internet da informação mudou completamente as nossas vidas, nas próximas décadas, blockchain, também chamada internet do dinheiro ou internet do valor, provavelmente mudará nossas vidas ainda mais. Se tem uma coisa que o passado nos ensina sobre o futuro, é que o futuro não é sobre certezas, mas sim sobre possibilidades. Isso em investimentos se mostra ainda mais verdade. E é isso que exatamente nós fazemos na Hashdex. Nós permitimos que investidores de todos os tipos ganhem acesso a esse futuro possível. E tudo de forma simples, completamente segura e 100% regulada. Para nós, é uma grande honra fazermos parte desse evento da Exame, que visa aprofundar essa discussão tão importante sobre o futuro do dinheiro.
A corrida pela inovação está cada vez mais acirrada, detalhada e principalmente personalizada. Na era da experiência, é necessário criar soluções que conversem diretamente com os consumidores, evidenciando de maneira simples como determinado produto otimizará sua rotina e auxiliará em atividades do dia a dia. E nesse cenário, que os smartphones com telas dobráveis ganham destaque e se posicionam como uma forte tendência tecnológica nos próximos anos. Em 2020, com a primeira versão do Galaxy Fold, a Samsung foi pioneira em comercializar no país um smartphone com tela dobrável. Ainda nesse ano, lançamos por aqui o Galaxy Z Flip e nesse segundo semestre apresentamos nossa terceira geração de smartphone com telas dobráveis em apenas um ano, o Galaxy Z Fold 2. A Samsung tem inovação no DNA e, como líderes de mercado, temos a responsabilidade de oferecer às pessoas novas maneiras de se comunicar, novas estratégias para trabalhar e novas formas de se conectar. E seguimos firmes nesse propósito, ouvindo atentamente o feedback de nossos consumidores para continuarmos antecipando tendências e superando todas as barreiras que a vida nos impõe. E é com essa visão de futuro tão instigante e motivador que damos as boas-vindas a todos a esse grande evento da Revista Exame.
Você quer entender como as novas tecnologias impactam a forma como você se relaciona com o seu dinheiro? Continua aqui com a gente no Future of Money. Um abraço. Boa noite, pessoal. Sejam muito bem-vindos ao Future of Money, o maior evento sobre o futuro do dinheiro da América Latina. A gente está fazendo painéis ao longo de todo novembro e esse aqui é o mais um deles, especificamente para a gente entrar mais sobre as tecnologias que envolvem blockchain. Eu sou o André Portilho, head da Exame Academy, e vou estar aqui hoje com vocês com uma entrevista super especial. Antes de eu começar, eu queria agradecer a todas as empresas que estão apoiando o projeto, a Samsung, a GetNet, a Hashdex, a QR Capital e a Tesos. Quando a gente tem boas empresas apoiando conteúdo de qualidade, a gente consegue ter um impacto na sociedade que é importante nesse mundo hoje que a gente está vivendo de notícias falsas e não necessariamente acuradas por tudo quanto é lado. Eu hoje tenho aqui comigo, cara, uma pessoa muito especial, até tenho que ver aqui que eu não sei se a Sandra caiu. Tá aí a Sandra. Hoje tenho o prazer de estar aqui com a Sandra Ro. A Sandra é CEO do GBBC, que é o Global Blockchain Business Council, que é uma organização com o objetivo de educar e promover o uso de tecnologias de blockchain no mundo. A Sandra tem um currículo super extenso, ela se formou pela Yale University, tem MBA pela London Business School, trabalhou numa carreira de muito sucesso no mercado financeiro, no Deutsche Bank, Morgan Stanley, também trabalhou no CME Group, e faz parte de uma série de fóruns e boards relacionados à tecnologia de blockchain no mundo. Então, ela faz parte do Centro de Estudos sobre Ativos Digitais do Estado de Nova York, da Central Bank Digital Currency, no Fórum Econômico Mundial. Então, assim, é um prazer muito grande para mim trazer a Sandra aqui pela primeira vez para um público brasileiro. Sandra, I will switch to English now. I did a brief introduction about yourself, but again, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you here, talking firsthand for a Brazilian audience, okay? So, I would like to start, Sandra. I mean, you had a successful career in financial markets, right? You were working in big banks and so on. And most of the time, it's very easy to stay on the comfortable path, right? So my first question for you is, what made you switch? What brought you to blockchain? Can you explain us a little bit about that? I think you're on mute, Sandra. Please check. No, still not. Let's see. No, we still cannot hear you. Take your time, Sandra. No problem.
I'm not sure what.
There you go.
All right. Sorry, I pulled the mic. Actually, I'm going to go with the computer mic.
No problem.
Well, thank you so much, Andre, for having me. And I have to say, it's been a long journey. I actually discovered crypto when I was still working in London, and financial crisis, really blew up around the world. I watched 5 rounds of layoffs at Morgan Stanley. Then I moved to CME Group to run FX and metals research and product development, still in London. And it was still very painful to watch, so much of the issues that happened out of the financial crisis. To me, that was the alarm bell initially, was our financial systems around the world, they work, but they're not as resilient as perhaps maybe we thought they were. And when Bitcoin came along, I actually read the paper several times and didn't really get it, actually. It took me quite a while. But then I bought some, and the more people I spoke to, and a lot of the traders in London back in 2011, 12, 13 really did know about it, were buying it because the technology was actually kind of cool, not because anybody thought it was going to make any money. I know today is very different. But that helped me to think about, if this system can disintermediate the foreign exchange markets that I was in, then wow, wait a minute, we need to think about this. And that's how I got into crypto. And then from crypto, evolved into blockchain DLT solutions. And now here we are.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, and it started with financial services, right? But now we're going into so many other areas, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But financial services really led the first set of use cases.
Yeah. And you mentioned when you think about like this radiation, I came up to this field much later than you, okay? But first from a trading perspective. But then when I saw all the ICO rush that we had in 2017 and 18, I just realized that could completely disrupt the capital markets as we know day to day. And that, again, I think there's a lot of people that came into this field with this type of perspective, right? Again, there's something here that is different that can really disrupt what I'm doing today. So I better pay attention. I better understand what's this, right?
Exactly. And funny story, I will tell you, when I left Morgan Stanley to go to CME, and CME is all electronic trading, right? They don't have any really, there's some pit trading, but it's almost all gone. I could tell Morgan Stanley investment bankers were looking at me going, what are you, crazy? You're leaving like investment banking to go into electronic trading, at a market infrastructure shop? What are you doing? And then when I left CME to focus on blockchain 100%, I could also tell people were thinking, why are you leaving a major market infrastructure firm that's #1 in derivatives, for listed derivatives? Why would you do that to go work with a bunch of startups and spend time in a risky, technology? But for me, that decision was not too hard because I'd spent enough time while I was at CME looking at the technology and I could see the potential. And this was back in 2017. So at some point, I decided, you know what? When you believe in something, you have to commit. And so I decided to commit 100% of my time.
Yeah, that's great. And Sandra, about GBBC, can you tell a bit more about, because I think it's not a lot of people know GBBC in Brazil, so I think it's important for you to explain a little bit what is the mission, what are you aiming for at GBBC?
Yeah, no, happy to do so. Thank you, Andre. The Global Blockchain Business Council is a Swiss-based nonprofit foundation focused on 3 main pillars: advocacy, education, and partnership in building what we believe the next multi-trillion-dollar industry. And that includes blockchain as a bedrock, digital assets, but also any emerging technology as they're being developed. And we take a multi-stakeholder approach. So we bring in government, academia, regulators, big enterprise, traders, you name it, entrepreneurs, because we definitely believe this is a team sport. It has to be collaborative. This technology doesn't respect borders. So there's a challenge. It's a plus and a minus, right? It's a challenge for regulators, but it's also very positive in that it can help break down silos.
Yeah. And following this, the obvious question, I think, I mean, a lot of, we have a very broad audience, so I'm sure that a lot of people are experts in the field that are listening to us. But sure, there's a lot of people that are just beginning to understand the technology. So can you please explain what is, in a broader sense, blockchain in DLT technology, okay? I mean, DLT technology, okay, but and in what fields, in what industries do you see the technology having a big impact?
So when I try to explain blockchain technology to people, I describe it as this. We don't appreciate bookkeeping and record keeping and ledger systems, but actually they are the bedrock of how we actually transact, and oftentimes how we make sure that when you and I agree to something, it gets recorded, right? I consider blockchain technology to be the next generation because it is meant to be P2P. It is meant to be distributed, decentralized in some instances. Some are less decentralized in other instances. But a true DLT blockchain promise, I believe, is the verification that a piece of data is true, and then it gets recorded in a record ledger that is effectively immutable, meaning somebody cannot go back and cook the books. And then on top of that, the auditability is already built in. So that's a baseline, it's just the record keeping. And then allowing for you and I, depending on where we are in the world, to actually have that updated real time. That is no small feat. And then to be able to share that information accordingly. Now, you need to have guardrails around that, especially financial transactions. You cannot have everyone reading everyone's financial transactions. That doesn't work. But technologists are working on solutions for how do you keep it confidential, but yet and secure, but yet you can share certain pieces of information. And I think that's the key thing. And then on top of that, there's a payments layer that can be built in. And then on top of that, there are other applications via smart contracts that can automate processes. So what I tell people is the promise of blockchain is not just blockchain itself, it's the plus plus.
Yeah. And most of the times when we think about a new technology, again, in most of the times, the technology don't change completely the core functions that we are executing, right? It just allow us to do in a much better and efficient way. And I think blockchain it's a great example of that. I mean, we're not getting rid of like booking keeping and registering things. That's a need for the transactions and relations that we have in our not only financial but also other industries, right? So it's just a way to improve a lot and cut a lot of like middlemen and unnecessary work given the technology that we have right now, right? Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And because sometimes when you're talking about technology, people forget. I mean, technology I see as a mean, not an end, in most of the parts. Okay, so it's not that we're going to get rid of the functions; just we're going to do it better. Okay, and of course, good technologies allow us to build new things on top of that, right? Who have imagined the things that we are doing right now with the internet when it all started with like an email, right? It's and I have a lot of the same views for DOT and blockchain technology, right? And Sandra, as CEO of GBBC and also board member in several companies and forums around the world, you have a privileged perspective on what people are building and what types of like technologies and applications that people are working on. And in your view, in what fields are you seeing bigger developments? Can you share some of that things that you are seeing with us?
Mm-hmm. So number one, I will say to everyone, blockchain technology experiments, applications are happening in every industry sector I can think of, from fashion to trading to healthcare to energy, right? So it's pervasive around the world. But when you ask me what are some of the most transformative things that are going to be happening, I would say 4 buckets, major buckets. Government services. Governments adopting the blockchain infrastructure layer to deliver better services, more transparency, building trust, I think is an excellent thing for the citizens. Now, every government's going to probably do it differently, but this is very promising to me because it affects individual citizens' lives, hopefully for the better. Number 2, financial services. We already said financial services began this journey in many ways, the first set of use cases. That will continue to proliferate, whether it's trading, capital markets, and other areas. It's developing and it's getting more advanced, and mass adoption, eventually will come. The third bucket that I think is really important now because of where we are in history, healthcare. People are looking at healthcare use cases very carefully, and that's you controlling your own healthcare records. Where is the data being held? All these questions that are coming up, as well as just tracking and tracing pharmaceutical vaccine, making sure that you're getting what you're saying you're getting, and they're not counterfeit or fraud. There are many use cases in healthcare. I think that's going to be a major, major topic. We're already seeing it, explosion of healthcare use cases. And then the fourth, I think actually is around energy and what they call, carbon credit trading, green economy, green bonds. That entire area, I think for anyone who cares about starting a company, making money, and also doing something good for society and for the environment, should look into this space because I think it's going to explode. The whole green economy concept.
Yeah, it's normal for us to see in every new technology that curve that goes from like obscurity to excitement, and then delusion, and then things maturing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm asking that to tease you a little bit,
Yeah.
and because we've been through a huge excitement until 2018, right? Where basically people were pointing blockchain as the solution to all the world's problems, okay? And then we went to like a more delusion perspective when people say, okay, no, there's a lot of companies there where are problems in search, solutions in search of problems, and not the other way around, right? And how do you see the stage that we are in today? How do you see not only the technology, but the industries and the companies maturing in that thing?
Yeah, so anyone who's gone to business school knows about S-curves and the development of the S-curve. Yeah. I will say because it's hitting so many different industries at different periods of time in the last decade, it's different parts of the S-curve. So for financial services, I think a lot of the naysaying, flushing out bad actors, a lot of that has already happened or has happened. People have exited. And so you're beginning to see the quality, the best in class, the real innovation. There are other industries where I have to say, I think the journey has only just begun. So there will be that disillusion period. I think governments have only just started scratching the surface. And let's face it, they'll do a million different pilots. Some of them will not work out very well. And some of them will decide, oh, blockchain is no good for us. I think making sure that it's not technology first, that it's problem first, and finding the solution next, the appropriate solution is the most important thing.
Yeah, let me bring you something that came to my mind right now, Sandra. When we were, I think at the beginning of this year at Davos, right? We had some very interesting presentations at the BBC lounge
Yes.
I remember one, if I'm not wrong, was from Accenture, that there was like travel ID. Okay, can you give an example of some of these new? I mean, it's a product that it's really in late stage of development and can really change some ways that we do things like travel. Okay, we're not traveling too much those days, but I mean, eventually we will be back traveling again. Can you give us some example?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The Accenture ID initiative that you're talking about was a coordination with the Dutch government, the Canadian government, and KLM, and the main Air Canada. So what I love about this use case, actually, there's a number of steps beyond it. So number one, some people believe that we need to get digital identity correct. Because if we don't get that correct, many people see it as a gateway into many other things. So we need to make sure that, Andre, if you are who you say you are, and that information is secured, it needs to be done in a standardized, secure, and then self-sovereign identity way, meaning you have control over that data. So that's what a lot of people in the blockchain space are advocating for. And that is very much what that project you mentioned with Accenture and the governments I just said, they are doing that. So meaning you can delete your own data at the end. But the concept is very simple. The airlines in coordination already have your passport information. The government is also involved. The customs government already, or division, already have all that information. You have it inputted once, it's verified. Then you have a QR code very specific for your flight. So they know when minute you walk into the airport, you go through the series of gates, and they're using biometrics as well. But that QR code that you show will let you basically go through. There are no more queues because nobody needs to check anymore because you've already been confirmed before you even arrive at the airport. They know to expect you. Next beautiful thing that they added, I love this feature, is if you are above the age limit for buying alcohol or tobacco or whatever, you can walk into one of those shops at the airport. You show them the QR code. You never give them any more information than what they need to know, which is you are just over the age limit. You don't show your birthday. You don't show your passport again, your nationality. It doesn't matter. You just show that piece of information. And I think that's the critical part. We reveal our information, and more than we need to, again and again and again, every single day when we interact. Yeah. Why are we exposing ourselves this much? And the idea is to tighten the data, secure the data, and have more control to the people of the data.
That's great. That's great. I had a question here that is the same one that Louis Victor posts on the chat. That is basically what are the main challenges that you see for mainstream adoption? Are those like regulatory related or technical related?
Yeah, we just had a big roundtable discussion today. It's both. We have a number of different challenges. I think one is around standards, which is also why we launched an initiative with the World Economic Forum a month ago called the Global Standards Mapping Initiative, GSMI. You can go to our website. It's the first thing, and you can click on it to see. But we looked at all the standards that are out there in the world: regulatory, legal, industry consortia, technical. Where are we as an industry? That was the first step, answering that question. We looked at 185 jurisdictions. We looked at 30 plus technical standards. The World Economic Forum did that part. And we started mapping, where are we? Where are the overlaps? Where's the conflict? What are we missing? You know what was amazing to me? Is we are still at the taxonomy level. We are still arguing about what taxonomy at basic descriptions of DLT, blockchain, crypto assets, central bank digital currency, stablecoin. And the idea is not to dictate. I think it's around bringing all of the definitions together and then trying to normalize them so that we can have a baseline that everyone can adopt. Because once you have taxonomy that everyone else can adapt, we can then have other industry groups, and we've had conversations. Global supply chain industry groups that are writing their own standards, insurance, you name it, many other sectors. They need baseline taxonomy in order to go to the next level.
Absolutely. Sandra, what about, I'll tease you a little bit again, right? We've just been through a big US election, actually in Brazil as well, okay? But
Yeah.
in US it was like a presidential election.
Yeah.
And given all the circumstance, I guess it took longer than it should. US vote counting is not exactly fast, right? But I think this time was a little over it. Can blockchain voting systems address this problem? Is this an application for that?
So just to let you know, Andre, I am actually a Pennsylvania resident. So I voted in Pennsylvania, one of the big controversial states or swing states.
Yeah.
I queued up for 3 hours plus, and I, did my vote. There were actually armed state police people stationed at the ballot box. I mean, that was how secure it was. So here's the thing. I think you could say democracy really prevailed because so many people came out. It broke almost all U.S. historical, in every state, I think, turnout was extremely high. So you could argue that's a good thing. Yes, a long time because people used paper and mail-in ballots. There is a school of thought, especially in the cybersecurity, realm, who will tell you we can only use paper. No way should any vote be attached to the internet. That is one school of thought. But here's the thing. It's a little more nuanced than that. I've spoken and we're working with the government in India. They've got the most digitized identities in the world. They've got 1.6 billion people on their national identity system. They're looking at one edge use case with, I think, blockchain could actually help. So in some regions, it's so remote. People actually have mobile phones, like one of those dumb phones, not even a smartphone, but a lot of villages have phones. But to get paper out there is almost impossible. Like very remote locations. And in the US, the use case where people think maybe blockchain voting could help is the verification piece, is when military people are overseas or Americans are overseas. When I used to vote overseas, I wait 3 weeks for paper to come. Then I have to mail it back to them. And then they tell me they don't count it unless it's a tight race. That's not fair. So there are a number of these like edge use cases where I believe maybe verifying someone's identity, verifying that someone actually voted, not the vote, but that they actually voted, are places where blockchain can play a role. But I know it's still hotly debated.
No, yeah, especially in Brazil, that we have a full electronic system from some time. There's a lot of debate that happens right now. But I like your point of view that is at the end, you can pretty much use blockchain technology to verify identity and, well, not count the votes, the actual votes, or you can use both. I don't know. It's I didn't have these perspectives. It's interesting. Sandra, we are in a hurry regarding time. Okay. Is there something else that we should cover that we did not cover so far? I mean, is there any other message? Again, for everybody that is listening, everything will be recorded. So, but Sandra, if you want to give some final thoughts and things that people should pay attention, that'll be good.
Well, first of all, thank you, Andre, and the entire Exame team for the support. We think Brazil has a huge role to play in driving the digital economy. And frankly, it's not about each country doing their own thing. It's about us collaborating to lift all the boats.
Yeah. No, I'm the one who had to thank you very, very much, not only in my name, but also in the name of everybody at Exame. I think we're just beginning. And congratulations for your work at the BBC. Okay, I think you are providing a huge service for the whole industry, and there will be a lot of things that we participate in together in the near and far future. Sandra, thank you very much again, my friend. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye bye.